Hello class, welcome to lab number 4, the Linux file system. Before you do lab number 4, it would be a good idea that you do a little review of how to navigate the file system, the presentation here that we covered in class. And I'm not going to do question number 1 because question number 1 is just create a table just like this, but defining what each and every one of these directories is used for. And then you're going to create another table with the usage of the commands cd, pwd, and ls. Your table should look like mine over here. Make sure that your syntax and example is formatted correctly, just exactly like mine. Yeah, that's about it. You can just copy my style. Command, what it does, syntax, and then an example of the command itself. I used the commands that we learned last class to build this example, but what you're going to do is you're going to do cd, pwd, and ls. You can find the usage and definitions of these commands and their syntax in the presentation as well, as we saw in class. And once you complete question 1, which I suggest you do before you continue with this video, then you can come over here. So what I'm gonna do is that I will open VS Code real quick, but let me just prepare my environment first. I'm gonna open my GitHub repo. I'm gonna go to labs. I'm gonna create a folder for lab 4. Okay, now I can close this guy here because I do not need it. And we gotta go to applications, programming, and VS Code. Okay. And in lab number 4 here, we're gonna create a file, right? We're gonna call this lab4.md. And let's put our font matter right away. 1, 2, 3. Name, your name, class CIS 106, semester, spring 22. 1, 2, 3. Okay, and then a title, which is lab 4, the Linux file system. Okay, and then here we're gonna have question, question 1, question 2, question 3, which is gonna be here, question 4 here, and question 5 here, right? So question 1, you're gonna have the table here, so I'm gonna just do table 1 and then table 2. Make sure you put your tables here and here, and then we're gonna continue with question number 2 from this point on. Okay, if you were wondering how you do this little line over here, just in case for your documentation, if you want to divide your content like that, it's actually an HTML element called HR, and that's gonna draw that line that you see over here in my markdown files. You see? Okay, so let's move along to question number 2. In question number 2, we are going to work with the pwd and the cd command. So the first part of this question is going to be using absolute path, and the second part is going to be using relative path. So let's get started with the first question. So I'm going to save my document and I'm going to close that, and we're going to open a terminal, Control Alt and letter T on my keyboard. And I'm going to put my terminal to the right, to the left, and let me increase my font a little bit. Okay. So start a terminal, which we just did. What is your present working directory, right? Which command tells you that? What's your present working directory? Well, look at this, present working directory. pwd prints the full file name of the current working directory. So by simply typing pwd, we get the present working directory. It tells us where we are at a particular time. Change your present working directory to user shared themes, right? And for this, we need to change directory. So we use cd, which stands for change directory, and then we type user share and then themes. And now, if you notice, by our shell prompt, we're now located inside the user share themes directory. And now the question is, what are you now? Well, what is your present working directory? Again, pwd prints the absolute path of our present working directory. Change your present working directory to the root of the file system. The root of the file system. Now I want to open the presentation real quick to show you something. Now when I say the root of the file system, we're talking about this. Where are you? This. Go to the root. Go to the beginning of your computer. Go to the source, right? The top. CD. That's it. CD root. And that takes us to the root of the file system. Notice my shell prompt over here. Change your present working directory to etc and Firefox. So let's do cd etc Firefox. And you just practice how to change directories using absolute path. So how to go from point A to point B given an absolute address. Take a screenshot of your terminal showing the commands that you use to answer question 1 to 5. So we are going to launch Flameshot and we're going to take a screenshot of this part over here. Oops, sorry. This part over here, which is the only thing we care about. Save. And we're gonna go to labs, lab 4, and this is Q1.1.png. And let's click on save. Actually, this is question 2. Sorry, question 2.1.png, and save it. Okay, now we're gonna use pwd and cd, but this time we're gonna be moving around using relative path. So let's clear our terminal window, and we do this with a clear command. Now we're gonna change directory to your home directory. Again, your home directory. So you are gonna go to here. Instead of saying Kevin, it's gonna say your username. So go to your home directory, which is different from the home directory, right? This is the home directory. This is your home directory. So the simplest way to do that is by typing cd, which default behavior is always gonna take you home. So change the working directory to downloads. And since we are working with relative path, and we know that this folder here, downloads, is inside our home directory, the only thing we have to type is cd and then downloads. An easy way to always knowing if the particular folder that you are typing is relative to where you are or exists in your current location is by using the bash autocompletion feature, by using the tab key, right? So for example, if I type cd lowercase dw, notice that no matter how many times I press tab, it doesn't autocomplete because there is no such folder named downloads with lowercase d, right? But if I type downloads, right, DOW, the first 3 letters, and I press tab, it completely autocompletes, right? I advise you to always use the tab autocompletion feature of bash because it allows you to make very little mistakes. If the command is autocompleting, you know you're typing it correctly. But if it is not autocompleting, there are 2 reasons. Either the command doesn't support the autocompletion or you are typing it wrong. Now, very few commands do not support the autocompletion feature, but pretty much any core command that is part of the GNU core utilities support this feature, which is great. Now, let's press enter and notice that we are in our downloads directory. Now, go back 2 directories. And to do that, we can use the 2 periods, which represents the previous directory. So we can type cd period. This represents 1 directory, so we can go back once. We can go to the directory before downloads. But then if we do / and 2 more periods, it's gonna take us back another directory. So we're going backwards 2 steps. Press enter and notice that now we are inside home. So what this do? Before we were here, downloads. After we ran this command, we were here. That was our pwd. cd 2 periods send us here, and then another set of 2 periods sends us here. You see, 1 and 2. 1 and 2. Let's go back here. Where are you now? How do you know? pwd. You can also take a look at your shell prompt, which is configured to tell you your pwd at all times. Okay, change the working directory to documents. Now, we are inside home. If we try to do cd documents, notice that autocompletion isn't working. And it is because inside home, there is no folder called documents, because the home folder only contains the home of every user in your system. So that means that we need to go first inside student, which is my user, as you can see over here, and then we can type documents. Press enter, and we have successfully moved between different folders using relative path. Notice that none of my commands, my paths started with a /. They all started with a relative directory. That is the difference between relative and absolute. Absolute will always start with the root. Relative starts with the folder that exists within your present working directory. Okay, now we're gonna take a screenshot of this. And we're gonna save it. Question 4, question 2.2.png. Now, moving along to question number 3, we're working with the ls command. Now, the first thing that I want to do is I want to clear my screen, right? Because I want to make sure that I start fresh with all my questions. And I'm going to type cd, which is going to take me home. And now that my terminal is clear, brand new, as it's supposed to be, we are going to start with question number 3. Download this compressed file, lab4.zip. Now, you can download it by just clicking over here, and the downlink will appear, and I'm going to click on OK. This is going to be located in my downloads folder. Now we're going to open a file manager. I'm going to click on places and home, and we're going to go to downloads, right? And here is my zip file. So I'm going to open the zip file. I opened it twice by mistake, and I'm going to extract this in my home directory. So I'm going to click on extract, which is going to open this dialog box, and I'm going to click on home, and then I'm going to click on extract. I'm going to click on close, close, and now if you go back home, notice that in my home directory I have a new folder called lab4 files, right? And if I go inside here, it has a bunch of files that we're going to play around with. So I'm going to close this because we don't need it anymore. Instruction number 1, change your pwd to user share. So cd user share using absolute path, right? Notice that it starts from the root, which means this is an absolute path. List all the files inside the lab4 files directory. Okay, so now we're going to use the ls command to list all the files that exist within the lab4 folder that is located inside home. So I'm going to open this real quick. So in the file manager, inside my home directory, I have this folder called lab4 files. I need to list all of these files, but I have to do it from this position. How do we do it? Simple. We type ls, and then we provide the absolute path of the folder lab4 files. That will be ls home, my username, lab4 files, and then we press enter. Actually, I made a mistake. No, I didn't. Change here, and then using absolute path, list all the files. Yeah, that's correct. My mistake. I was misreading something. That is correct. So, using absolute path, notice that my path starts in my command over here from the root, goes into home, student, and then the desired folder that I want to list. And then list everything inside lab4 files. And it exactly did what we told the system to do. List everything inside lab4 files. Now, change your pwd to lab4 files. Now notice that I started with my tilde character, with this shorthand for my home directory. It's a shortcut for my home directory. So I can do cd tilde lab4 files. And this takes me to that folder. Essentially, all I did was this. Go inside. That's all I did. Okay? Now, long list all the files inside your current working directory with human readable file sizes, right? Now, if most of these things is sounding Chinese to you, I suggest that you go and do all the lab, all the practice that are located inside the presentation navigating the file system, so that you can refresh your mind on what all of this jargon means. So I'm gonna do a long list, and a long list is done with ls minus l. But let's assume that you forgot that the option L is for long list. Well, you can open a new tab here, and then you can do ls -h for help, and press enter. Oh, sorry. Help. That's perfect. And this is gonna list to you all the options of the ls command, and you can read them as you go so that you understand everything that I'm talking about over here. So ls-l is gonna do a long list of all the files inside this folder, right? Because if I don't specify a folder, ls is gonna list the current working directory. But my long list must contain human readable file sizes, and we do that with option H. But if you forget, you can always go back to your other tab and look for human readable, and then you'll see which option gives you human readable. Lowercase h, human readable. Notice that you have to combine it with L. Press enter, and notice that the file size now, it's much better than reading bytes. Now, we're gonna do another long list of the folder with human readable sizes, but sorted by file size. So if we go into our options over here, and you go option by option, eventually you're gonna find an option that says sort by file size. If you see lowercase a over here, it says size. Print allocated size of each file. That's not what we want. We want sorting. So if you look at uppercase S, it says sort by file size, which is exactly what we want. So we're gonna go back here and we're gonna do ls-lh. This is gonna give us the first part, which is long listing with human readable sizes, and then uppercase S to sort this by file size. And after we run this command, the first file that should be on top here should be this one that is 2.1 megabytes. If you press enter, oh, there was a bigger one. This one, 2.5 megabytes, 2.1, and then so on. Now, notice at this point that my screen is already full, right? My terminal screen is already full, but you are required to show me every command that you type here. What we are gonna do is that we're gonna take a screenshot now so that we can submit this assignment correctly. We're gonna save, and we're gonna do lab 2 question, this question 3.1, because it's the first screenshot pertaining question 3, and we're gonna click on save. Okay, now that we did this, we can safely clear the screen and continue operating. Now, long list all the files inside our directory, again, human readable, sorted by file size, but this time we're going to exclude the user and the group. And we need to show the inode number of the file. Now, all you have to do is go over here, look for the options that exclude the user and the group, and that displays the inode number of a particular file, right? So I'm gonna let you read it. I want you to pause this video so that you can find the options. Write them down on a piece of paper and then continue the video. So go ahead, pause it and do that. Okay, now let's answer the question and let's see if what you wrote down in that piece of paper is exactly what I use. So we're gonna do ls minus lh and then s. This is gonna give us long list, human readable, and sort by file size. But now we need to exclude the user and we need to exclude the group. And finally, we need to display the inode number. and all of these options is your answer. If you wrote down this in the piece of paper that I told you to write, you got it right. Otherwise, go back and read the particular definition on each and every one of these options in the manual page. Finally, list all the files inside the Lab 4 files by file extension and in reverse order. And we're gonna do the exact same thing. Go read in the manual, in the help page, find the option for sorting with by file extension and the option for sorting in reverse order. Once you got it, write it down, and let's see if your answer matches mine. So we're gonna do ls, and we're gonna sort by, this is a simple ls, so no long list, and we need to sort by file extension. So, and in reverse order. Notice that the first one that appears is XLS, and then after XLS we have PNG, PDF, PDF, J, H, D, C, C, and A. If you got it this way, you got it correctly. Otherwise, go back over here to your help page and read the description of each order. Now we're gonna take a screenshot of this, and this concludes our question number 3. Save and Q3.2. Now let's talk about question number 4. We're gonna talk about the tree command, which is similar to ls but prettier. It does a couple of things in a more organized way and easier to read, which is the reason why I like to introduce the tree command to my class, because a tree command is a little bit easier to understand the output. So if tree is not installed in your system, you need to install it. And you already know how to install programs because you did it last lab. So make sure that you install the tree program if it is not installed in your system yet, which it should be. Now, using absolute path and having etc as your present working directory, display a tree of the Lab 4 files. Now, this is a complex question. Well, a combined question, let's say. That's more accurate. Why? Because in this particular question, I'm asking you to do two things. First, you need to have etc as your PWD. So that means that you need to type cd etc, and you meet the first criteria, which is having etc as your PWD. Next, the command that you're going to write needs to use absolute path. So keep that in mind. And now we're going to use a tree command to display a tree of the Lab 4 files. And this is actually quite simple. Tree, and then we provide the absolute path of Lab 4. And for this, we can use the tilde character because we know the Lab 4 is located inside our home directory, right? And then we do Lab 4 files and press enter. And beautiful. Notice that this tilde character, as we mentioned during our lecture, is shorthand, abbreviation of all of this. So it saves us time when we're typing. We're gonna learn more about what this expansion means later on when we get into more complex topics like shell scripting. But for now, keep it in the back of your head as shortcut or shorthand for my home directory. It's the easiest way to learn it and it's the easiest way to remember it. Okay, now change your present working directory to your downloads directory. Now, before we do number 2, notice that our screen is already full. So it would be prudent of us to take a screenshot now. But the part that answers my question is this one over here, so I'm gonna start from here. Right, cd etc and then tree. So save, and let's do question 4.1, enter. I'm gonna clear my screen. Now, change your PWD to your downloads directory. So we're gonna do cd, again, home, downloads. Why? Because that folder is located inside my home directory. Downloads, home, home, downloads. Press enter, and we're there. Display a tree of the Labs 4 directory with full path, with the full path prefix for each file, file permissions, and the file size in human readable format. Okay, now, again, we're gonna do the same thing with it here. We're gonna clear our terminal window and we're gonna do tree help, so that it shows us all the options of the ls of the tree command. So the first thing is we need to display a tree. So we know that the command we're going to implement is tree. However, downloads this folder here, and I want to show it to you graphically. Labs is next to downloads, not inside. So that means that we first need to go back one directory and then go inside labs 4. So we do 2 periods back. So that takes us back one step. And now if you type LA and tab, notice that it auto-completes. Why? Because you went back, you went out once, and now you are in your home directory. Now you can access the folders that are inside your home directory. Okay, with that said, now let's focus on the options of the tree command that allows us to first do full prefix for each file. Okay, full path prefix for each file. So which one of these options does the A? Doesn't look like. How about F? Print full path prefix. That's what we want. So F. Next option, file permissions. Okay, file permissions, file permissions. File permissions. Look at this one. This seems like it's what we're looking for. Protections, permissions. Okay, so let's go back here. P. And finally, human size, human readable formats. Okay, so human readable. Human readable. Perfect. H. Press enter and notice what we get. File permissions, a beautiful tree, and file size human readable. We also get path prefix for each and every one of our files. Now, display a tree of the lab4 directories sorted by last modified and showing the file owner and group. Okay, now I'm not gonna do this one. I want you to figure this one out on your own. Again, I already showed you how to do it by doing this, the first one, do this one. Display a tree of the directory in XML format. Do that one on your own as well. The options are right over here. So as long as you're following the workflow that we're building, you should be able to figure 4 and 5 out on your own. Okay. Question 5. The exa command. Now, the exa command, this is a beautiful one. The exa command is one of those tools that is intended to replace ls, because ls is a very old program, and exa is actually quite fun. Now, in the version of Ubuntu that we have, which is 2004, exa is not installed by default. Now, versions of Ubuntu that are coming after 2004 do have exa installed by default. Now, I built this little command for you so that you can have exa installed in your system without much hassle. Just copy this, paste it in your terminal. Oh wait, don't forget to take a screenshot of your terminal when you're done with the question on top. Right? And actually, let me take a screenshot of this one so that I can put it in my file when I am building my markdown file as an example. So this is question 4.2. I believe it's 4.2, is it? Yes. Enter. Okay, now let's clear our screen. Sorry, clear, not cellar. Clear, and then let's do cd so that we can be home. And now we're gonna run this command. Okay, put your password. I'm gonna put my ultra secure password. This is gonna take a little bit, should be very quick, and that's it. Now that you have done this, let's clear our screen and let's start with this. List all the options of the exa command. Okay, exa help. Now go all the way up and you can take a screenshot of this, right? If you want to be more pragmatic, you can zoom out and take a screenshot of this. You zoom out by pressing the control key on your keyboard, the left one, and then the minus key on your keyboard. Print screen. You can also do it graphically on the terminal emulator as well. Now, you're not required to do it exactly like I did it, as long as you show me the command you ran on top. Q1.1, Q5.1. I don't know what's wrong with me and numbers today, huh? See, so what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna zoom in, and as you can see, I can zoom out here, oops, or I can zoom in. There you go, that's a little better. Let's clear our screen. Long list all the files inside the lab4 files directory. So I'm gonna go back here, and again, exa help, and find over here which option does long listing, which is option L, as you can see, and do exa -L. Now, they want me to long list our lab4 directory. So I'm gonna do, let me clear my screen one more time. Notice the difference between exa and ls, right? Exa is much, much prettier, right? I actually like exa a lot. So let's do clear, exa -L, lab4 files. And this is my first answer. So this lists my lab4 files using exa, and it's a long list. Now, display a tree of the lab4 files. That you need to do exa for this, not the tree command. So if you look at the options over here, there is an option capital T for tree. So we do T, and now exa does something very similar to what the tree command does. This one and this one, I'm gonna let you figure it out on your own. Read the options over here, figure out which option does that, and then come back over here. I'm gonna take a screenshot of this, and let's save it. Question 5.2.png. What you're going to submit. Place your screenshots of your answer 4 in the lab4.md file. This is not very different from what you've been doing already. So we're gonna go to Applications, Programming, Visual Studio Code. Don't forget to complete your tables. Once you complete your tables, you're ready to start putting in your screenshots over here. If I open the file manager for VS Code, notice that my pictures are exactly where they're supposed to be, inside lab4. So let's start answering these questions. So the first thing that I'm gonna do is that I'm gonna copy this to the clipboard to make my life easier. So this is question 2, and for question 2 I have 2 answers. So question 2.1. Now, you might ask yourself, Professor, how do you get that menu? Control and spacebar opens that menu, and you can simply navigate. There you go. Question 2.2, and then Control and spacebar, question 2.2. Oops. There you go. Now we need to answer question 3. Question 3.1 and question 3.1. Question 3.2. Oops, sorry. There you go. And question 3.2. Then we're gonna answer question 4. Oops. And we're gonna do question 4.1, and then here Q4, and if I do Control and spacebar, it starts auto-completing, starting with files that are named Q4 point something. So Q4.1.png. Do I have more than one for Q4? Yes. So we're gonna do Q4.2, Q4, Control space, Q4.2, and this is working a little faster, you know, as you get more comfortable with VS Code. Now, this file over here is named incorrectly, so let me fix that and name this file as it's supposed to be. There you go, that's perfect. Q5.1, bingo. So let's go over here, Q5.1, and then Q5.1.png. Q5.2, and then Q5.2. Let's save my file by pressing Ctrl and S in the keyboard, and now right click and convert to PDF. export to PDF. And that's conclude the second part. Now we're gonna push the changes to GitHub. Yay! So I'm gonna open a terminal. Terminal, new terminal. Let me clear this. New terminal, bingo. The first thing that I wanna do is do a pull. I wanna make sure that what I have in GitHub and what I have in my local computer matches. So Git Pull. Next, I'm gonna do an add command. So git add period. All the changes that I made to my folder, to my repo, please add it to Git. Git commit -m lab4 complete. Next, let's send this to GitHub. Git push. We're almost done. Now we are going to our GitHub repo, and this is what you're gonna give me. Go to lab 0, go to lab 4, and give me the markdown file. This URL is the URL that I want, and it should look like this. Well, similar to that. Give me this URL and give me the PDF file, and that gives you the grade for lab 4. But you are not done. There is something else I want you to do. So at the end of this presentation, over here, we have this cheat sheet for the ls command, and I want you to download this file. Click on OK. And we also have this cheat sheet for absolute path and relative path. We're going to save that as well. So we're going to close this, we're going to close this, close that, close that, close that. And let's open our file manager, click on home. We're going to right click on CIS 106 and we're going to open it in a new tab. It's going to open a new tab on the side over here, and that's fine. We want to go to downloads and we want to copy these two guys. So we're going to cut that from there and we're going to paste it inside this folder called cheat sheets. And we're going to paste it over here. Right? You're supposed to have this folder already, and this folder is supposed to have this cheat sheet for installing software. If you don't have it, please make sure you create that folder and you put this cheat sheet there as well. These cheat sheets are going to be very important for your final and for your final grade as well. There is something important you're going to do with that, so make sure you have them over there. So we're going to close this, we're going to close that, and we're going to do another commit. So we're going to do git add period, git commit -m added cheat sheets, and then git push. Now there is one last thing we need to do. Take a snapshot of your virtual machine. So once you have submitted this assignment, we're gonna close everything. We're gonna turn this computer off. Okay, and then we're gonna open our VirtualBox Manager. Right click over here, right click on snapshots, right? And we're gonna take a new snapshot. So we're gonna delete all of these snapshots that we have because we no longer need them. You know, it doesn't make much sense to keep a lot of snapshots because don't forget this occupies a space in your computer, right? So we're gonna delete that. My advice is to always keep one snapshot of your previous lab successfully completed so that you can always revert back to a last good known state. I'm gonna click on take, snapshot 1, lab 4 complete. Let's click on OK, and we can close this, and you have successfully completed lab number 4. If you have any questions, you know how to find me, either Slack or see me in class. Take care.